Welcome back to Great Day Live. I'm Eric King, joined by Melinda Jividin, who is the care pastor here at Northeast Christian Church. Thank you for having us, first of all.
Absolutely.
It's been a great conversation the first half hour. We learned so much. We've dived into so much. So I want to recap and kind of reset our frame here. And reintroduce you, because obviously you're not my normal co-host. Claudia is not here today. You are the care pastor, which, as I said a bit ago, is a big umbrella, because almost everything I would imagine the church does has something to do with caring for others. So talk about how you got into that. I know that you were a member of the church for 2 years before you started working with the church. But what's your background? I know you studied biblical studies and then you moved into this role.
Yeah, so I'm actually a preacher's kid, which means I've been in church my whole life, which some say is a curse, some say is a blessing. I think I fall somewhere in between. But I have loved Northeast from the day that my husband and I first showed up in this room as just people looking for a church family, and fell in love with just the compassion that is felt in this place for the outcast, for those who are seeking God in hard times and hard seasons. And so when I think about the role that I'm in now, I think my love for this kind of ministry started a long time ago, of just seeing the people who, again, just the outcasts, seeing the people who needed just that extra love. And so I have had a variety of roles here at Northeast, and about 2 years ago just knew that I was just sensing a desire to just show up for people in different ways. And so actually stepped into this role about 2 months before COVID hit. So I still feel like in a lot of ways I'm trying to figure out what my job is, because it has looked so different based on, you know, restrictions with social distancing, and if we can go visit people in the hospital, and just all those different variables in ministry that can get just messy in the middle of a pandemic, as it is with any career.
It's strange that you said that you started shortly before COVID started. I hear a lot of people say that.
That's so funny.
The amount of people who are working in jobs that really require community care just got there right before COVID, which I think is great, because it's an effort. I think we all know what this is, an effort to put the right people in the right place for the right time. So I'm glad that you're where you are. We've been talking about mental health and how COVID has affected that. So you walked into the fire. What have you seen when it comes to mental health, particularly induced by COVID?
Yeah, I think it's just the isolation is what comes to mind immediately, and just people feel lonely, and it's harder sometimes to reach out to people, even our best of friends, when you're not seeing them in the regular rhythms that you were pre-COVID. It feels like it requires a lot more effort to stay in community and to stay in friendships and relationships with people. And so that, whether we realize it in the moment or not, that does wear on our mental health. And just people who know us sometimes can see some of those signs that we're struggling before we can. And so when we're not seeing those people, I think that those situations can linger on a little too long. And so the isolation, the job loss, the loss of loved ones, people who have physically suffered from COVID itself, all of those things, especially when they're all combined together, leads to mental health challenges for a lot of people. And then we know that lots of people were already facing mental health challenges before COVID began, and they had developed rhythms of knowing how to care for themselves and knowing how to address the challenge that they had. And a lot of those self-care mechanisms and resources went away when COVID hit, and so it was kind of like starting all over again to rebuild that health and that focus on caring for themselves.
So one of the things we also talked about were some practical ways that the church is working to tackle this gargantuan issue. And you talked about emotionally healing spirituality, mental health first aid, counseling, listening, and talking about it. Where can people find out more about those resources quickly?
Yeah, definitely go to our website. We have more information about those opportunities as they become available, if anyone would like to participate in them. And just staying in touch with kind of what's going on here at Northeast, they'll naturally hear about those opportunities as they come up.
So what we want to do after this next break is kind of dive into some personal stories. Obviously, as you talked about, there are people who are struggling, have struggled, and who have sought help and support from the church. You all have stepped in. So coming up after the break, we're going to get into some of those personal stories and meet people who have struggled with mental health issues and who have found comfort and healing with Northeast Christian. We'll be right back.